Hey. Time for the Out of This World story from rSpace. Always be a bit suspicious of the people your spouse calls just friends. Today on rSpace, sometimes just friends know way too much, share way too many secrets, and send way too many late-night messages for it to be innocent. Wife said it wasn't cheating because it was only emotional. I cut things off and let her friends and family judge. My wife, Leslie, 27 female, and I, 28 male, have been married for 3 years. I'll start things off by admitting that we had an infidelity issue in the past. A few months after we started dating, Leslie started texting another guy, a friend of hers. She said she'd felt really guilty about it. She'd even been the one to come forward and tell me about it herself. She insisted that they'd never gotten physical, and the texts she showed me seemed to support that. At the time, it had ended our relationship, but things happened, and we ended up back together. She swore it would never happen again, that she'd learned her lesson. It took a while for me to get over it, but eventually I forgave her. Her deciding to tell me herself made all the difference, and had I found out myself, I don't think there would have been any bouncing back from it. I watched her closely after that, and I never saw any signs of her texting other guys or looking for attention outside the relationship. I assumed she'd grown up, and I wouldn't have to worry about that anymore. So we had a sweet, loving relationship and eventually got married. Honestly, things went so well that I completely forgot about the incident altogether. It didn't feel relevant to the new part of our lives anymore, but I was wrong. A text notification on her phone alerted me to the fact that she might be talking to someone else. That was how I found out that she'd been talking to another man. I went through the messages as closely as I could, and everything seemed to be just talk. They haven't met up once. As far as I can tell, the guy lives overseas, apparently in France. There were a few messages about him arranging for her to come out so they could meet, but they didn't seem to be serious plans. But that wasn't the point. Just like last time, she'd crossed a line that we'd drawn together. She was confiding in this guy about everything, telling him secrets that I thought only she and I knew. She was even complaining about her frustrations in our marriage, things that she'd never even told me. She didn't insult or paint me in a bad light, but the things she told him were extremely private. It was emotional intimacy, the type that was supposed to exist only between us and our marriage. There were romantic messages too, and that was the part that made it clear she wasn't talking to some new best friend or something. The messages weren't explicitly sexual or even particularly erotic, but there was definitely an undertone of longing there. It hurt, I won't lie. Some people will tell you that the worst part of cheating is that your partner is sharing their body. I think the worst part is that they want another person more than they want you. Reading her messages with him made it clear that she wanted him more than she wanted me. It tore me apart. I knew I wasn't perfect, but I did my best to make things work. Our relationship was important to us. There's a part of me that realizes that it wasn't my fault. Cheating is always the cheater's fault. There's something wrong with them, not the victim. But at the time, I wasn't ready to accept that truth. I didn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself, though. I sat Leslie down and told her that I'd seen her messages with him. I knew she was cheating on me. She didn't deny it. She admitted that she'd started talking to him as a friend. He'd commented something insightful on a Facebook post, and she sent him a DM. That was when she realized he was charming and funny. She said it just happened, that they just clicked instantly. She said they both never expected it to go as far as it had, and that it hadn't been her intention the moment she sent him that first message. But she emphasized that she wasn't cheating. She said they'd never done anything physical, and that their relationship wasn't any deeper than if he were her best friend. From the moment I'd seen the messages, I expected this kind of response from her. I just asked her a simple question. Would she be okay with it if I was talking to another woman like that? At first, she didn't answer. Then she said that she'd be fine with it, but I'd already caught the hesitation. She knew it was wrong, and she was lying to herself. She didn't want to call it cheating because she didn't want to face the consequences. If I was talking to another woman the way she was talking to this guy, she would lose her mind. While we talked, she used every harmless title she could think of to describe what she was doing. She called it a friendship, a connection, a conversation, anything to dance around what she was really doing. It was emotional infidelity. When I called it that, she got offended and said that I was thinking like a man. According to her, I couldn't comprehend a man and a woman being friends without there being something deeper. I quoted some of her messages back to her. I didn't raise my voice when I spoke. I just repeated her own words, how she said he made her feel warm inside. Talking to him felt like coming home. Sometimes she imagined coming to Paris to see what their life there could be like. I asked her if those sounded like something a person says to a friend. Then she got angry. She told me I was being manipulative by twisting her thoughts and feelings to make them seem like something they weren't. She wanted to play the victim now, even after she'd crossed the same line that had made us break up once before. She said I was being immature by bringing up a mistake from her past. She said she'd paid for it, and I was supposed to forgive and forget. How could I forget when she was back doing the exact same thing again? We didn't end the argument on any solid conclusion. She insists that what she did wasn't cheating, and I feel like she's just arguing semantics. Surely, she probably never slept with the guy, and she might never have even told him she wanted to sleep with him. But I feel like spilling your soul to another man like he's your boyfriend has to be infidelity of some sort. Am I overreacting here? This isn't the 90s. I'm assuming that we all know what emotional cheating is, and we can all agree it exists. It's not just about physical acts. Emotional intimacy is a big part of a committed relationship, and when that's shared outside the partnership, it's totally cheating. You're not overreacting by feeling hurt or confused. Emotional boundaries are just as important as physical ones, and both partners need to respect them for a relationship to work. Update. There was an even split of opinions here on my last post. The majority seemed to agree with me that she was cheating. There were a lot of people who disagreed though. It was hard to take them seriously because there was a lot of mental gymnastics going on to make it seem like I was the bad guy. Anyway, after reading the comments here and talking to some friends in real life, I quickly figured out that my first instinct was right. I wasn't overreacting, and she had stepped outside the boundaries of our relationship. So I talked to her to let her know what I wanted to do next. I was going to do what I should have done the first time she did this, way back when we were dating. I was going to end things for good. She didn't take that news well at all. She went back to her old defense, insisting that I was blowing up over nothing. It was just a harmless conversation, and I was being insecure. She also accused me of abuse for going through her messages. I didn't understand how that was supposed to work, and she couldn't explain it, but when she said that, it scared me. Abuse is a heavy accusation, and she just threw it out there so casually. I got worried about her making accusations that could ruin my life. Women can be the most evil people when they feel like punishing you, and I was scared of seeing a side of her that I never knew existed. So I stopped arguing with her and packed my things. I wasn't going to give her the chance to make something up. I wasn't going to sleep in the same house as her, and I was going to make sure every interaction after that was recorded in some way. I started right then, with my phone's camera running as I packed my things up. All I caught was her calling me a coward for running out of the relationship over something meaningless. I didn't respond, just focused on my packing, my things, and getting out of there. I lawyered up the same day and told him about my concerns. He said I was right to be worried about false allegations and told me I had done the right thing once those concerns came up. He instructed me not to let myself be alone with her again and to keep a record of any and all communication I had with her from that point on. Once the papers were ready, we had her served. I wasn't involved in the process at all. She called me when she received them, and I answered while recording the call. She asked if I was sure that this was what I wanted to do. I was throwing away 3 years of marriage over some texts with a friend. I told her it was more than just texts with a friend, and she knew that. She'd completely disrespected our marriage by flirting with another man. She was quiet for a moment, and I thought she might apologize. Instead, she doubled down and said that I was probably the one who was cheating. She claimed it was my guilt that made me see infidelity in a platonic relationship. I didn't know if she really believed everything she said, or if she was just trying to mess with my head. If it was the latter, it was almost working, but there was only so much gaslighting you could do before the facts won. I'd seen those messages, and I knew they weren't platonic. They read like romantic texts between high schoolers. She felt something for this man, and the only reason she hadn't acted on it was because he was across the Atlantic Ocean. I was tired of the pointless argument and ended the call. All I needed from her was for her to sign the divorce papers so I could move on with my life. Simple, but she still had to find another way to complicate things. It started with a message from her sister. We're friendly normally, though we're not close, but this time she was furious. She accused me of being heartless and blindsiding Leslie. She said Leslie had told her everything, and I was letting my insecurity destroy my relationship. I was the one who felt blindsided, getting attacked by her sister out of nowhere. The moment I realized that she was the one calling, I started recording the call as well. She wasn't Leslie, but it could be helpful to have this on record too. I asked her if Leslie had shown her what she called the friendly conversation. She told me that it didn't matter because she knew Leslie wouldn't lie about it, so that was a no. I told her that I would show her some of the messages that were causing issues between us, and then she could judge for herself whether I was being insecure. She insisted that there was no need, but I was done listening to her. I cut the call and got ready to text her the screenshots I'd taken. It was my turn to tell my side of the story because it was clear that she was ready to get ahead of me and ruin my reputation. They had a lot of messages between them, so I only picked out the most relevant parts. All the parts where they poured out their hearts to each other and talked about how badly they wanted to meet. I made sure to highlight the parts where Leslie gushed about dreaming of meeting him. Looking at everything all together, it looked worse than I remembered. They looked like the messages of two people who were deep in love. The thought of that hurt me, but I pushed it down. I had moved on and Leslie would be my ex soon, and I couldn't let myself get emotional anytime I thought about what she'd done to me. When everything was ready, I sent the messages out. I added a caption asking if those messages seemed appropriate coming from a married woman to another man, but I didn't just send them to Leslie's sister. I sent those messages to everyone I knew who also knew Leslie, all of her friends and family members. I said I knew that Leslie had probably told them about how I was divorcing her over nothing, and I asked them to judge whether I was overreacting. I honestly didn't really care about the responses. All that mattered to me was making sure that the true version of events got out there. She had started this by trying to change the narrative that she told her sister I wasn't going to let that slide. But some responses did come in, and I was honestly relieved to see them. Most of them admitted that she had given them her watered-down version of events, and that they had believed her. A few of them even apologized for believing her. Her sister never got back to me. I had a feeling that meant that she realized I was right, and she didn't know how to admit it. It was smarter for her to keep quiet than blindly defending Leslie. Most of Leslie's family didn't reply to me. Maybe it was a solidarity thing, or maybe they just didn't know what to say about her actions. I was surprised to get a response from her mom, though. She apologized and said that she thought she raised her better than that. She told me that she would have a long talk with Leslie, and hopefully we would be able to patch things up. I didn't bother telling her that there was no hope of that. I didn't care if Leslie learned her lesson or not, because I had no plans on being around to find out. I was done with her and ready to move on with my own life. Her mom was a kind woman, though, so I just told her that she didn't need to go through the trouble of that. Leslie's response was dramatic. I made sure I recorded when she called. She went ballistic. She accused me of trying to turn everything against her. I explained that I hadn't done anything like that. Then I told her about the call from her sister. I'd simply shown her the facts, and since I didn't know who else Leslie had given her version of events to, I made sure to cover my bases and clarify things with everybody. She insisted that I was spinning events, but I reminded her that I hadn't added my own words to anything. Apart from a brief introduction, all the words and messages belonged solely to her and her friend. If I was the one who had a problem and was seeing their platonic relationship as something more, then everyone else should be able to see the platonic relationship as actually that. What was she worrying so much about? She said I did it on purpose to be petty, and I reminded her that she was the one who started spreading stories. I was content to just go through with the divorce and move on with my life in peace. When she brought other people into it, I went ahead and did the same. She couldn't blame me because people saw her for what she was. After that, she stopped reaching out to me. Maybe she realized there was no point in trying to manipulate me anymore, or maybe she was just that mad at me. Either way, it worked for me. I was seeing enough of her in court as it was. The divorce went faster than expected. We didn't have much to split, so there was no real dispute there. She tried to get alimony, but we both earned close to the same amount. Along with the fact that we had no kids, and we hadn't been married for very long, she didn't get any alimony. It was clear that she was disappointed in that. I was glad. She could find another way to fund a trip to France if she really wanted to go. I don't know too much about what she's been up to after the divorce. Maybe she kept up with her French pen pal. Probably. Maybe she'll go and live with him. I doubt it. The one thing I do know is that everyone she knows is fully aware of what type of person she is. I still get some messages telling me that they couldn't believe she was the type of person who could do something like that. Her mom told me one evening that Leslie was back living with her, and she asked me to come and talk to her. I politely declined. I told her mom that I would always respect her, but Leslie chose someone else. I also let her know that it wasn't the first time and that I simply couldn't trust her anymore. Her mom was furious. She promised to talk to her again. Once again, I told her not to go through the trouble, though I won't lie. I liked the idea of Leslie getting chewed out by her mom, but I ended up blocking most of her family too. It was a shame since most of them were really nice, but they were a tie to her. If I was going to cut her off completely, then I needed to lose the people who could bring her back into my life. It might seem extreme, but I wasn't going to take any chances. Moving on from her was one of the best things I could have done for myself. Dealing with her wore down on my mental health. It wasn't just the cheating. It was the way she played the words to spin what she'd done. The way she threw around loaded words like abuse as if it didn't mean anything. The lack of accountability, the gaslighting, and the way she spun the narrative to her advantage. Whether she slept with him or not was irrelevant. She was a toxic woman, and being with her would have broken me down. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I'd simply stayed broken up with her the first time this happened. I would have saved myself a lot of pain and heartbreak. I guess the important thing is to understand that some people just can't change. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. You did everything right, OP. Stood your ground, lawyered up, and kept your distance when things got toxic. It's tough dealing with someone who won't own up to and just tries to twist the story to make themselves look like the victim. And throwing around serious accusations like abuse when you're just trying to protect yourself is messed up. It's good you didn't get sucked into that drama. Cutting off her family too? Yeah, that sucks. But sometimes you gotta do what's best for your own peace of mind. When does a friendship become too much as a committed relationship? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you next time.